It's Christina Herrick, produce editor for The Packer and host of Tip of the Iceberg, and I'm here with another episode. And this episode, Mike Hemman, president of Netafim North America, is joining me to talk about irrigation and recycling and sustainability efforts on the irrigation side. So thank you for joining me, Mike.
I appreciate the invite. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and we talked for a story that I worked on, and so it's great to have you on the podcast to kind of bring that conversation to a broader audience. So, when we talk, hi everyone, it's Christina Herrick, produce editor for The Packer and host of Tip of the Iceberg, and I'm here with another episode. And this episode, Mike Hemman, president of Netafim North America, is joining me to talk about irrigation and recycling and sustainability efforts on the irrigation side. So thank you for joining me, Mike.
I appreciate the invite. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and we talked for a story that I worked on, and so it's great to have you on the podcast to kind of bring that conversation to a broader audience. So, when we talked, you kind of shared a little bit about this drip irrigation recycling program. So why don't you give our viewers a really quick snapshot? What is it? When did it start? What does it entail? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so our recycling program, we brand it now as the Regen Recycling Program, and this was launched in 2007. And really, the impetus behind this is over the last decade or so, as we know in various aspects of agriculture, specifically in the produce business, there's been a big increase in the cost of labor. And so farmers have been looking for opportunities to automate, how to do things with less labor so that they can continue to farm and continue to deliver the quality and sustainable products that we rely on today. So one of the things that was happening was there was so much labor that went into removing and reinstalling a drip irrigation system prior to harvest that it was becoming unsustainable because of the cost. So we worked directly with farmers and we talked about what kind of solutions might be out there. And a solution came to light, which was good, let's say from an efficiency standpoint, but maybe not so much from a sustainability standpoint. And what the solution was is, can you make a drip tape that can be used one time and one time only? And then when it's done, we just get rid of it so that we don't have to use the labor to reinstall and extract it and everything else. And so we were able to do that. We worked with equipment manufacturers, we worked with growers, we came up with an automation process. But now what you have is this end of life drip tape that's just sitting there that you have to do something with. So we had already been in the recycling business, and we decided to ramp up our recycling business to be able to deal with this end of life drip tape when it was done. And we introduced this new program where what we now do is we work directly with the farmers. And when they're done, we will schedule a pickup. We'll come grab the material from them. We take it into a recycling facility that we have built in the Central Valley of California. And then we recycle that material. We extract the polyethylene resin from it and remanufacture that into a sustainable product that we call Netafim's Regen material. So now the farmer basically has a 360-degree sustainability concept where they have recycled the material and then reused the material. We reuse this material with the same warranty and the same quality that we have for anything else that we manufacture.
That's really interesting, and I think when we talked, what really drew me to wanting to have you on the podcast for this is just, you talked about how, that obviously growers are under extreme scrutiny for their sustainability efforts, right? Everyone wants to reduce their plastic use, whether that be at the end of at the end in packing. They just growers want to do what they can. And you kind of alluded to that this was a way that a grower might offset some of that carbon footprint or, some of the other efforts, if, for example, like strawberries, where they might need a plastic clamshell to deliver that product to the retailer, they might be able to offset some of their sustainability efforts by using this program. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and some of those sustainability benefits to growers that would participate in the program?
For sure. So I think anybody that's in the produce industry for sure knows that when they talk to companies like Walmart or Kroger or Safeway, I mean, this is sustainability is something that is extremely important to them because it's important to us as consumers. And so they always are looking for something that they can do to demonstrate, hey, we're farming in a more sustainable way. We're doing things that are helping the environment. We're using recycled material. We're using water in a more efficient way. We're using laser weeding instead of herbicides, whatever it might be. I mean, these are
Yeah.
things that are ongoing part of discussions that produce growers are having with these companies. So for us, we are giving them one more thing that they can do to demonstrate that sustainability that they have every day. Now, for me, I think the really fun part about this is it's not a one and done thing. I mean, we continue to have a discussion ongoing and a dialogue with farmers about what else could we do. So a great example is we have another program that we're working on right now that's really in an experimental phase with a couple of large farmers where they've said, hey, this is great. I can recycle this material. But when you send it to me, it comes with cardboard in it and it
Yeah.
comes with a plastic outer wrap. So what do I do with that? I'm just throwing it in the dumpster. So we're changing our manufacturing process and we're now shipping coils of drip line that don't have all the outer packaging in it. So now we're helping to not only recycle the drip line, but recycle the packaging that comes along with it. So this is an ongoing, I'll call it a joint experimental type of thing because the sustainability aspect is core to what we do in Netafim every day.
Yeah. And I think when we also talked too, we had kind of a conversation about the consumer, and the consumer wants, they want to buy produce that's grown as sustainably as possible. And as you alluded to also, the retailers are really making that push as well. So talk about kind of the benefits that a grower might have. You talked about the benefits, I think, to the grower, but let's talk about those benefits to the overall produce industry in this program and its importance.
Yeah, so I think one of the benefits to the produce industry, and I think we need to think about as agriculturalists in general, is to make sure that we're backing up the things that we're saying and that it's not just our message, it's backed up by a third party. So to me, it'd be similar to thinking about organics. There's a
Yeah.
recycling body, or not a recycling, sorry, a certifying body for organics, whether that's CCOF or OMRI, whatever it might be, and they're going to say this is an organically approved product to use. We've sought to do the same thing with our program. And so what we've done is we've gone out and we've worked with an external partner that certifies our program. And they don't certify the fact that we're using recycled content because lots of people do that. What they are certifying is that the recycled content comes from the farm. It's drip line that had been utilized, and that drip line has made it all the way through this circular process through our recycling program. They've gone out, they've looked at our recycling facility, and they have said, we'll put our stamp on this. And by putting our stamp on this, we can now certify this externally, not just Netafim saying it's a great thing. Then what we've done is we've now branded that and we've come up with what we call the Ag Vantage program. So some of the large growers that are participating with us, growers like Braga and Church Brothers, Tanamura and Antle, Diarigo, Merrill, I mean, there's a ton of partners that we have that are working with us within this program. They now have access to this logo. So they can put this logo and participate in our marketing efforts and their marketing efforts, again, back to the consumer and back to the grocery stores and back to anybody that's interested to say, I have a certified stamp from an external certifier that says we're doing something good here. We're doing something sustainable.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And I do think that's also part of it is having that third party certification that they're not just taking your word for it. There's actually something measured that's able to be shared and then justifies the program too.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the future of plastics, and obviously I'm asking you this from your perspective in the irrigation industry. It does seem like plastics is kind of in a crosshair right now. There's a lot of discussion about what to do. Yeah, as I alluded to, obviously there are some places where um, plastics has a critical role in delivering a fresh and safe produce. So, where do you see plastics role in the future, and where do you see plastics going in the future, especially in the irrigation part of the produce industry?
Yeah, I think we have to be proactive in our approach. And I would say again, as agriculturalists, we should not wait until we have to do something and then react. We should be ahead of that and demonstrate that we are being sustainable and demonstrate that we are providing a solution before we're asked to provide a solution. So there's technology that can be utilized and there are things that can be developed. There are plastic resins that can be biodegradable. Now, it's a bit tricky because if you want a biodegradable drip line, obviously you don't want it biodegrading before you're done with it. So it has to be a commitment to research. It has to be a commitment to ongoing work and trying to really deliver something sustainable. And I'll use an example from when I first started with the company. I'm part of a trade organization, and we were in a sustainability group, and I was with my peers, and the discussion was around recycling. And somebody said, well, it's great that we all recycle, but it's really tough because we can't put this into a finished product that a farmer is going to use. But what we could probably do is put this into like an irrigation box, or maybe we could sell it to people that are going to build playground equipment, et cetera. I was new to the industry, but I stood up and I said, I completely disagree with you. It can be done, but it requires two things: a commitment and money. And so if you're not willing to make the commitment and you're not willing to make the investment, then it's not going to get done. But if you look at a company like Netafim that has put millions of dollars into recycling facilities, research and development to continue to lead and continue to innovate, you can do it. So I would challenge anybody that's in this industry, you have to do the same thing. There are technologies that are out there. You can develop those technologies. Plastic mulch can be recycled. There's a lot of work that's happening with that right now as well. So I think we just have to continue to lead and we have to continue to innovate.
That's a great point. And I think that's really interesting. I don't know, when you were talking and you said you were in that meeting and they were talking about plastics not being able to be used by the farmer, for end use, I thought, well, that's exactly what's happening now. I know that was probably in the past, and we're now into the future, but that is interesting just to see um, how much things change in terms of mindset there.
Absolutely. And we have to adopt that mindset. I mean, I think that you can look at whatever the latest statistics are, but I'm going to use 1, 2% of people in this world, and it's probably less than 1% in the US, are directly connected to agriculture.
Yeah.
It's changing so much every day that if we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to tell it for us, and we're not going to like the story that's told.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And, I think that's worth mentioning almost all the time, because I think the industry does a good job, but I think, sometimes we can be in this little world and we think everyone knows and understands everything, because we're so well versed, and, the consumer doesn't understand. They don't understand when a weather system comes through and might change the availability of produce. I mean, unless you tell them and communicate, they have no clue. So, yeah, I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, thank you.
So when we talked before, you also talked a little bit about there's a corporate partnership program that Netafim has, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that, and what that would mean for any growers that might be listening and watching the podcast.
Sure. So we've launched recently a first of its kind program. And really, what it does is it links large corporations that are working to increase their sustainability efforts. It links them directly with farmers who want to convert to a more sustainable and efficient irrigation method. So, an example might be companies like Keurig Dr. Pepper and Google that we've worked with that have a high water footprint, let's say, for whatever their manufacturing process might be or their server farm. They use a lot of water. And they do everything they can to conserve water, obviously, because they care about sustainability as well. but there's only so much that can be done. And so they're interested in getting to a position of either water neutrality or water positivity. They want to be able to reduce the footprint that they have on water stress and water quality in the areas that they do business. They may not, again, be able to do that all on their own. So what we do is we work with them and we are able to connect them with farmers where they will provide funding to the farmer. And if that farmer is using an inefficient irrigation system, let's say flood irrigation, good example is alfalfa. So they're using alfalfa with flood irrigation. We can connect a farmer with that corporation. That corporation will provide an investment to the farmer to help offset the cost of a modernized drip irrigation system that's automated. We're able to track exactly how much water is being used, compare that to the way they were irrigating in the past, and be able to take that with a firm number and say they saved X amount of acre feet. So you can look at it from a water stewardship standpoint, more efficient use of surface and groundwater resources. You're delivering water exactly where it needs to go, reduction in CO2 emissions because you have less water that needs to be pumped, reduction in tillage, and you can say, again, supportive of regenerative agriculture. So all good things. The farmer benefits and the corporation benefits as well.
And this isn't just for alfalfa growers, right? This would be, since we got a lot of fresh produce growers probably listening in. So this would be, I know that was an easy example for you, just of massive water use, but it's also for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Any place where we could move from a less efficient irrigation method to a more efficient irrigation method is an opportunity. And again, I think the key though is we have to connect them with the right partner. And this is a pretty unique program, almost a case by case and how it's done. So on our website, there's information about how to participate. If somebody's interested, they can get on the website, they can fill out a quick questionnaire. And if we have corporate partners that are looking for water conservation projects in the specific geography in which they're farming, we can get them connected with those corporate partners.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities there, but it is I like that you phrase it's case by case because it's not something that you're just trying to do quickly. It sounds like it's something where you really vet both the grower and the corporate partner to make sure it's a fit to meet both of their goals and objectives.
Absolutely. And again, that information on our website, you can get on there. We have what we call a farmer hub. There's information about our corporate partnership program, but we also have information about how farmers might access funding that might be available through state or federal resources that's also aimed at sustainability, climate-oriented funds. We saw a lot of funding come out of the previous administration or current administration, about to be previous, that was focused around climate and the Inflation Reduction Act. So a lot of that money is out there. We just have to get it connected to the right people to help them offset some of the operating costs that they have today and demonstrate that commitment to sustainability.
Yeah, no, that's great. And thank you for sharing kind of where growers can go to learn more. Well, that's all the questions I had. Is there anything else about the sustainability and kind of plastics in the irrigation industry that you want to share that I didn't ask about?
No, again, I'll have the same challenge that I threw out earlier to anybody that's involved in the ag business is we have to keep innovating. And especially if we're looking at things that are going to be, as you said earlier, in the crosshairs, we have got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to be proactive to tell our side of the story as well. I just close by saying also that if people are interested in the recycling program, they can go to netafimusa.com and at the top of the page menu, there's a tab for recycling. So if they click on that, it'll tell them everything they want to know about the program and everything they need to know if they would like to participate.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that as well. And thank you so much, Mike, for joining me. As the as the podcast alludes to, really is just tip of the iceberg in terms of topics. I feel like we could have more and more discussions and get into more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to be a guest again anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. And don't forget, if you like what you hear, you can catch new episodes of Tip of the Iceberg on your favorite podcast platform like Google, Spotify, Apple, and more. And that's a wrap for this edition of Tip of the Iceberg, brought to you by the Packer, Produce Market Guide, and Farm Journal. Join us again soon for more industry insights. Thanks so much. Bye.